One time, me and my boyfriend at the time were smoking on the back deck. The house I was living at the time was in one of the oldest parts in my town, 1700s Connecticut. Well, we are just smoking, and we both see this faint apparition. Literally looked like the bust of a woman with those big, poofy Victorian-era dresses just strolling on by. We both waited a moment. We couldn't believe if we really just saw what we saw, looked at each other, looked at the smoke thinking maybe the smoke cloud just warped into a human figure somehow, but how different the color was comparatively. I can't ever shake that. A bunch of things would happen at that house. Bright flash into my room. Looked like someone shined a flashlight through my second-story bedroom window. He said he thinks the way it glared it came from inside. Orbs and all. Found out like 2 weeks into moving in, one of my roommates messed with an Ouija board after stumbling upon it in our game board closet.
We may have a ghost or something in our house. There used to be a cabin on our lot from back in the late 1800s. And over the years, we have had a few weird things happen. My daughter, when she was little, had an imaginary friend that we would catch her talking to from time to time. And over the years, when I was in the rec room off the garage watching TV, I would hear a knock on the door going out to the garage. And when I looked, sure enough, the garage door was closed, and no one was there. I have also been woken up in the middle of the night when someone was poking me on the shoulder like 3 times, and no one was there. And I have also felt the edge of the bed sag like someone sat down several times, too. Scared the crap out of me at the time, but have gotten used to it. Nothing has ever been violent or anything, but makes you go HMM. Makes me wonder if a child may have died here back in the day.
I would say the most worst paranormal experience I ever had in my life was dealing with alien abduction and seeing UFO appearing around my house sometimes in my hometown. I even woke up with alien implant on my thumb, since I remember every bit what they have done to me in the past while I was growing up as kid. Ever since then, I came across medium who end up becoming my spiritual teacher and teaching me how to protect myself from like psychic attacks. And it just gotten so bad that I had tell my mentor about the whole alien abduction and the implant. I know he was a Reiki master since he was able to help me remove the implant from the thumb, since I could no longer feel that pain from my thumb since it was tracker. But I know most of this paranormal stuff was super bad at my grandma's house because of the history that happened before my grandma built this house. So I had talked to my mentor about all this because it was affective his family too. So he and his wife and friend got together and did a ritual to remove those evil ET from home and cause any harm to my mentor family and my family as well. Ever since then, I haven't experienced that stuff again, and I'm glad I came across my mentor during that time, since I had so much paranormal activity happening at my grandma's house since it traumatized me as kid. I never really talk about my alien experience to anyone, but I have talked to psychics about my past experiences while growing up as kid.
Nothing paranormal has ever happened to me, but here's my story. When I was younger and went to my grandmother's house, I always had a very strange feeling like someone was watching me. This feeling was stronger when I went upstairs, and it was even worse at night. I never asked my grandmother about it, but the feeling was always there. Later, I told my dad that I had a strange feeling when I visited my grandmother, and he told me that when he was young and slept upstairs, he would see shadows pass by. He said that once, while he was in the bathroom, he saw a person pass under the door. There was a hallway where the bathroom was, and at the end of the hallway were 2 rooms. The shadow passed down the hallway toward the rooms. My dad thought it was my uncle, his older brother, since he sometimes played pranks on him at night to scare him. But at that time, my uncle had moved away from my grandmother's house. After my dad saw the shadow pass by, he started hearing people calling his name. They called him by his full name, which was strange since everyone shortened his name. This was repeated quite a few times, and then he told my grandmother. And then a Jehovah's Witness came and blessed the house. And she stated that strange things were felt in the house. And then it didn't happen again. But I still felt that I was being watched when I went there.
Considering I lived in an actual haunted house, then unfortunately moved into another haunted one too many stories to pick from LOL. The one that affected me the hardest was when my grandpa was dying in the hospital. And we just had moved into our new house. I was in 9th grade at the time. I was at home and everyone was in the hospital. And I was watching TV and the TV started to flicker, then all the lights. But one after the other, not all at once, and it went crazy, so I called a friend and ran to the park with no shoes on. I was terrified. Then he came over to check around, and we heard a stool slide across the floor. And he ended up running out, and I stayed on the porch till my parents and sister got home. and they told me that my grandpa had died, and it was at the same time all the lights started to flicker earlier.
This is the only paranormal experience I've had as far as I can remember. This happened around 2010 or 2011. I had woken up at around 8 a.m. on a Saturday. I was in elementary school at the time, so since there was no school, I just lied there before getting out of bed. My room was already quite bright from the sunlight coming through the curtains. I eventually sat up and all of a sudden I saw a short, completely black humanoid figure just a few feet away to the left of me right next to my bed. It was just about as tall as the bottom of the lampshade of the lamp on my drawer, which I later measured as almost exact 4 feet tall. The best way I could describe the silhouette was like a wrinkly basketball on a stick, but I couldn't make out any detail of the texture of the figure. The figure glided quickly along that side of my bed until it hit my bedside table, after which it appeared to bounce a couple times like how a ball would bounce on the floor after you drop it except horizontally. I stared in absolute shock and fear, and then I blinked and it was gone. The whole encounter didn't last more than a few seconds, but it terrified me and I quickly ran out of my room to my parents. I even drew what I saw later that day and showed my parents, but sadly I don't have that piece of paper anymore.